Health Matters with Paul Rosen.
If you're not getting any relief or not finding any forward momentum in your path to trying to get back to health, I would suggest you go and look into muscle response testing. Go see Paul.
It's a life-changing. You feel so much better. It's priceless.
Straight talk about health with your host, Paul Rosen.
All right, if you're talking about health in the current day, you're talking about one story essentially, and that's what we'll be addressing today on Health Matters with Paul Rosen. Hi, Paul. Have not seen you in a while, we may as well confess.
I know. It's been way too long, and with staying at home for that extensive period of time and all the tumult over this particular bug and repercussions and all of the crazy politics and everything else. And by the way, I warn everybody, this is not a political show. Having said that, it's almost impossible not to mention something related to it. So I apologize if I offend anybody, on one side or the other, but it's my show. And I can say what I want.
As far as it being non-political, I feel more assured than warned. That's a good thing that we're going to be as non-political as possible. And we are doing this this show today on a Zoom chat.
We are. Just a little bit of background, folks. I know many of you have. I appreciate it very much. I've been listening to pre-recorded shows. And the reason for that is the office was no longer available for live occupation, and so that put a kibosh to the radio show live and taking questions and so forth. So, I know many of you have questions, and I would be more than happy to answer them. The suggestion I will make, because even this show will not be live, is to email your questions on any topic, health or nutrition oriented, to Get Healthy, that's GETHEALTHY, Get Healthy at AccuNatural, ACUNATURAL.com. Get Healthy at AccuNatural.com, and my staff will compile the questions, and we'll hopefully catch as many as we can next week, because we now are going to be doing these shows, which, yes, are pre-recorded, but they are up-to-date, material. And Rod and I are very excited about that. We were just given the okay to do something like this. And so here we are doing it.
And I think listeners, certainly if I were tuning in right now, I'm less interested in our technical issues than the fact that we have plenty of information with COVID or about COVID. And that's stuff we all need to talk about and be aware of. It's forever in the news. There's all kinds of news happening about precautions we're taking and ways of making ourselves safe. For example, just this past week, Walmart said everybody's welcome to come into their stores and shop and do their normal thing. But if you shop at Walmart now, you have to wear a mask. And other stores like Costco are making the same requirements. I heard an interview with the CEO of Delta Airlines. They are requiring all passengers on their flights to wear masks now.
And they have a right to do so, yes.
Oh, yes, they do. And these are all company policies, by the way. These are not state mandated measures.
And this is where this politics thing might come in. I am sick and tired of people fighting this mask thing, right? I'm not saying that I completely agree that everybody should wear a mask 24/7, because I don't. But I've been in my clinic since day one. We've been open, we've been in operation, and since day one, we've been following the guidelines set out by the CDC. We basically keep our equipment sanitized. We all wear masks in the office. We have signs that say anybody who enters this space must wear a mask. We also ensure that everybody washes their hands before they actually come in to see me. For all of those people who really, truly want a completely and totally dedicated practitioner to the health and welfare of men and women and families across our community, you couldn't do much better than me and my staff.
We're talking about masks. Why don't we take a quick detour there, Paul? Early on, when the virus was just being reported overseas in January, masks were largely seen as a self-protective measure only. It wasn't reported necessarily that masks would do anybody any good but yourself in terms of keeping yourself away from the virus. But we now know that's not true. As of a couple of weeks ago, a couple of hundred doctors wrote to the World Health Organization encouraging a worldwide awareness that the virus was airborne. It can be inhaled via droplets in the air or smaller droplets known as aerosols. And so the mask not only keeps you safe, it keeps others safe, from your coughing or the other things you may do, which may release deadly droplets into the air.
And remember that most people are wearing masks that do not protect them 100% from the penetration of, enough virus material that could get through the mask. Unless you're wearing, a mask that on its front side says no viruses can penetrate this material. So these masks that people are generally wearing, the surgical mask, or now people have finally gotten into it, and they're wearing their bandanas, and they're wearing masks with all different kinds of drawings and colors and everything else, which is great. And yes, the generally speaking, the masks that most of us have are really about just reducing the likelihood that you will pass on what you may be harboring by trapping the droplets of moisture that every single human being expires when they breathe.
That's fair enough. And I think it's good to individualize your mask if you want. I've seen masks on little girls. They had My Little Pony masks.
Oh, it's just great.
Two other guys with skulls on their masks and whatever else they want to project. That's good. And there are all kinds of masks. I mean, you can buy one, at least in my neighborhood, at the local convenience store for a couple of bucks. Or you can go upscale. There is such a thing, I swear, as a designer mask now, and a designer mask industry. So you can spend $30 and up on a single mask, but you'll be trending because your mask will look cooler than the others.
And so should it be, right? I mean, it's not the holy grail, but the mask thing it's a nod to your neighbor, right? You are doing something that has the potential to reduce the risk. You cannot reduce it to zero. We're human beings, we're alive. But don't give me this bunk about, oppressing my freedom and, interfering with my individual rights, right? If you're a compassionate human being and you care not just about yourself, but you care about somebody else, doing something simple as putting a mask on your face to reduce whatever percentage of the risk is, it just seems to me to be a nod to humanity. Now, do you need to wear, where I might differ with some of the other experts, there's no need to wear a mask in the outdoors unless you are convened in a group where you're going to be one on top of the other. If you can spatially distance yourself, and the general distance is 6 feet, and the reason for that is past 6 feet, the droplets and the exhalations generally have succumbed to gravity and fall before they will impact the individuals around you. But if you're going to be face to face or elbow to elbow or shoulder to shoulder, yeah, you should be wearing the masks there.
Fair enough. As of a while ago, however, having said that, Oregon is now one of almost 24 states requiring masks at all times. You go outdoors, you wear a mask. And this week, Alabama joined that list.
Well, I don't think Oregon said you have to wear a mask, outdoors 100%. I may be wrong about this, but unless you're distanced 6 feet or more away, from other individuals. You
Fair
have
enough.
updated information on that?
Yeah, I think Oregon does require masks at all times. I mean, you go outside your home. Legally, you're required to wear a mask, but you can walk down. I mean, I'm looking out my window right now. I could walk down the street and pass any number of people not wearing masks. So we still do have a certain number of folks who are making the choice not to wear a mask. But the overall point of this, as Paul has been making clear, is that you're doing a favor not just for yourself, but for everyone around you. It's really the least measure we can take to keep ourselves safe.
And it's not your God-given right to be a jerk and walk around like a fool. It's not. You're just being a jerk. And any private business has the right to prevent you from entering their door. They can set, the standards by which you must follow if you want to utilize their space. So be a compassionate human being that I know all of you are capable of. Be compassionate. Know that the people you're breathing on might be your sister, your brother, your child, your grandmother, your grandfather, so that's one thing we can do, is mask up. And of course, the other thing is true. The spatial distancing, as I indicated, has to do with physics. And the next thing is vaccinations. I am not an anti-vaxxer. I am a scientist that believes in evidence, and that believes in evidence that actually tells a consistent story. And unfortunately, vaccinations do not tell a consistent story. Take the flu vaccine, for example. Now, the FDA and the pharmaceutical companies, which stand to gain billions of dollars in revenue, and who are essentially, between the two of them, in charge of the entire event, right, have a bias. They just do. And it's human nature to succumb to those biases, no matter what, right? What we need is a study that is done by a non-biased group, for example, like the Cochrane Group, to go out there and compare, for example, people who are, let's just take the flu vaccine as an example, people who don't use the vaccine versus the people who do, and actually do a survey study and find out who gets sick, for how long, who dies, and what age groups, and so forth, to help us determine, are these vaccines really the gold standard? I mean, are they really going to protect you, in your own view, like a bubble wrap around you from these diseases? The COVID virus is not the flu virus. It's different, but nonetheless, it's still a bug. And the latest statistics, if you look at the latest statistics, now that more testing is being done, oh my gosh, how that has been flubbed by the people who are in charge of getting these tests out to the states and cities and whatnot, are showing that the mortality percentage is dropping constantly. It was around 5 or 6% 2 or 3 months ago. It's dropping now. It's somewhere close to, or maybe even below, the mortality rate of the flu. Those are the statistics that I've seen. Rada, I don't know if you've seen any different.
No, I haven't seen any different than that. I do want to backtrack for just a second, Paul. As of July 1st in Oregon, Governor Brown has mandated that we wear masks in all public indoor spaces.
Yeah.
No, not outdoors. However, in other states, such as Washington and California, those states are requiring masks outdoors if you can't stay 6 feet away from other people.
Exactly. Yeah.
So they're parsing their language.
Yeah, but
as far as vaccines go, Paul, there is a company that is scheduled to go wide scale with their testing, involving 30,000 subjects this month. So that process is apace. There's usually a years-long process involved with creating any vaccine. They normally go through animal testing first and then select groups of individuals before moving up to large-scale tests. And again, that whole process usually takes a matter of years, but they fast-tracked all this, obviously, so that we're already in the large-scale test.
Which is really scary. It's really scary because the essentially the predetermined viewpoint of the current people who are in charge of or who dominate, I should say, healthcare is that vaccines are safe, and that really is not necessarily true across the board. I mean, when they say vaccines are safe, you know, it gives you the idea that, okay, fine, if sharks were swimming around the water off the beach and the lifeguard says, hey, it's safe to go out there, right? And someone gets bit, what happens to the whole group? They go, oh my gosh, you said it was safe to go out there, and now my young boy doesn't have a leg. Well, the truth of the matter is that vaccines, even vaccines that have been around for a long time, do and can cause injury. And when you're injured, it's 100%. So here are the statistics. Just take the flu vaccine again, you know, as an example. The flu vaccine's efficacy, protecting people from the flu, is anywhere between I've seen reported anywhere between 19% successful to 50% successful. That means a flip of a coin. That means essentially, you know, you flip a coin and you decide to go into the water.
Yeah, it's a pretty broad range, right there.
It's a very broad range, but still not convincing. I'm not saying if you feel it's appropriate for you to get a vaccination, that's fine. Just don't make me do it, because I do the types of things that I'm going to share with you that you can do as well. That really puts you in a great position to be able to overcome most bugs that you're gonna that natural bugs that you're gonna come in contact with, at least in the environments of the U.S.
Fair enough. I would like to take a note too about testing, or take a moment to observe that there are home test kits available now. If you want to test yourself for COVID at home, you can, but these tests, I question the reliability of them. Many of them are on the market now. They've been approved by the FDA under what they call an EUA. That's an emergency use authorization. They've kind of been fast-tracked onto the market. Be wary of these home tests because, again, they're out there in a process that isn't the normal process. So, you know, be advised.
Yeah, the issue, though, is even if you get tested, so what? Then what? What do you do? Let's assume that you actually get tested and you've got COVID, right? And you're not, in the hospital. I mean, what do you do? Right? Well,
before you continue with that thought, Paul, let me say too, everybody says, everybody being the experts, say there are false positives and false negatives, even in the best test. So be aware of that as you go forward. And let's say, okay, as you just said, you are diagnosed as positive. I would think, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, that the first thing you would want to do is self-quarantine. Is that correct?
Yeah. How do you deal with the buckets? What can you do both pre and post? And of course, you know, I've talked a lot about this over the years. We have the ability to truly enhance our immune systems, but there's some things that you have to do. There are some lifestyle changes that you have to make. And I'm not saying it's convenient. In fact, it's rather inconvenient. But you know what? It's your life, and the quality of your life, I'm certain, is important to you. I know it's important to me, especially if you come to me and ask me how to help. So what can you do to improve your immune system? Well, the first thing that you can do, I know you see this coming, Rod.
Oh yeah, I know, but go ahead.
Stop eating sugar. You've got to cut sugar out of your life 100%, no questions asked. I didn't say cut sweet, the taste of sweet out of your life. I said you've got to cut concentrated sweeteners out of your life. Just gotta. There's way too much data, way too much information about how how sugar and similar concentrated sweeteners basically debilitate your immune system. I can get into all different types of complex science, but this is not really the forum for that. You're just going to have to take my word for it.
Right. So that's an easy first step, and it's one of your canards, Paul. Get rid of sugar.
One of my canards, whatever that is.
Yeah, it's a canard. It's a popular band from the 60s. I'll explain later.
Okay, thank you. It's one of my, let's just say this, Rod, at least I'm consistent.
Well, that's true. And,
unlike politicians.
No matter what Emerson says, consistency is not necessarily the hobgoblin of small minds. I reach back into my high school literature.
Yeah, I can see that.
About that. But something I failed to point out earlier, Paul, we were talking about the basic things like wearing masks and social distancing, and you were talking about not eating sugar and doing the normal things to strengthen your immune system. But you've always been a huge advocate for many years now about just washing your hands. Is that
Indeed. That's a very good point you bring up. And, washing your hands is something that you can do. The one thing that I would not do is use the hand sanitizers on any regular basis. They contain ingredients that are both harmful to your skin and in some cases harmful to your immune system. And I welcome anybody from my heart, anybody who really wants to get well and stay well, and especially during this particular time, the return is invaluable.